Hi, I'm Leah. I'd like to talk to you today about childhood trauma, not just the trauma itself, but the effects that we've been left with from having traumatic experiences as children. Most of us tend to think that our childhood is a bit of a distant memory. We don't remember much. And we might feel sad or angry or disappointed or regretful when we look back at our childhood, but we mostly don't understand that the effect of our childhood is enormous. It's the foundation of the whole of the way we view ourselves, other people, and the world. And not only that, our own personal expectations, the kind of vision that we might have of what we can achieve and who we can be. All of this is very big, isn't it? But that time between birth and puberty, really, all those years, we're forming the ways that we see and the attitudes that we have on our, as I say, on ourselves, the world, and each other. So let's look first at the drive that we have as a baby and for all those years when we really need to be looked after. The drive is for attachment, to feel profoundly bonded with at least one adult in our lives and to feel safe and secure, held within the love and the closeness, the attachment of that person. And when that attachment is broken, that's one of the ways in which a huge amount of pain is caused for us. Within the drive for attachment also comes certain fundamental needs. So we have a need to feel lovable and loved. We need to feel valued. We need to feel approved of, and we need to feel safe. And when those needs are not met, then we begin to develop the kind of views I've talked about, the view that we're not good enough, the view that we're not lovable, the view that we're not safe. And those things come out of our experiences as children. So that's when our needs are not met. And then we've also got when things come in, when we're on the receiving end of inappropriate behavior or attitudes to us. They might be verbal or physical abuse, abandonment, neglect, harsh judgment or criticism. All of these things we don't need in our growing up, and when they come in, they also produce a trauma within us. And that all goes together to begin to have fundamental views on ourselves and the world and others that will limit us and hold us back. So the result of these things happening to us that shouldn't, or things not happening that should, is that we adapt our behavior to get our needs met or to avoid getting what we shouldn't have. So we learn pretty early on how to, for example, behave like a good girl or good boy, because if we do that, we get the love and attention we need. If we don't, then we don't get that love and attention. We don't get the approval. So that's just a simple example. But all the time as children, so that we get our needs met, so that we avoid what we shouldn't have, we're always working out how to behave because we blame ourselves. Children think that they are, in the way they are, or should be, the centre of the world. They're in their own personal drama as the protagonist, and they think that whatever happens, in some way they've created it. So if lots of wonderful things happen in the family, that's great, isn't it? Because that builds a sense of self-esteem and self-valuing. Because the child, or us as children, we thought we did that. But when unfortunate things happen, like parents split up, or there's lots of arguing and shouting in the family, there is abuse or drunkenness or unkindness, all of those things will impact on us as children in the way that we'll think we somehow did that, we're somehow responsible. So we can see the deep undermining of our self-image, our self-view that happens as a result of these things. So what else comes out of it? What comes out of it is that we begin to say to ourselves the things that we have discovered or think we've discovered that are true. So we might learn to say to ourselves that we're stupid, that we're not as good as other people, that our brother or sister is much better. Because we're experiencing that, we assume it's true, and in a way, what happens is we kind of take that on. And particularly as we move from childhood into adolescence, it's as if we say to people, well, don't worry, you don't need to tell me I'm stupid, I'll do that. And we build this sort of self-talk that's running constantly in our minds. In fact, for most people, what's running constantly is a level of judgment, of criticism, of saying what's wrong in whatever situation we find ourselves. So the child blames themselves, and then the child, as it grows into puberty, into adulthood, is likely to continue with that self-blame, that self-judgment, that negative view of the world and of other people. And there's not at first much questioning of this. It's only, well, I think what tends to happen is that we meet somebody, or there's an incident, or there's something that we read or do that somehow triggers our determination to look into what's going on for ourselves. And perhaps we begin a journey of new awareness and new healing work. Meantime, as a result of our trauma as children, as we grow up, we begin to develop particular personality types that are arising out of dealing with the trauma. For example, the addictive personality. All addiction arises out of trauma. It's not a choice or something that we just happen to get into of a physical experience. It's an emotional choice that comes out of the trauma. We might develop the personality of being very controlling, very responsible. We might be very sort of self-denying, or it's managing always on our own, or being an OCD kind of personality, or being very duty-bound. And particularly this one strong personality, so somebody who has huge anger that's been buried. Now, what these personalities all have in common is that they are our way of avoiding the pain that we're carrying from our childhood. The pain is in terms of the feelings that we have. So there'll be feelings of shame, of regret, of guilt, of anger, of sadness, of deep loss within us. So these feelings, it's as if they just bounce around in us. They don't just go. If our feelings haven't been expressed at the appropriate moment, they're still there. And we store them between our pelvis and our throat. And this area generally is like a container that's filled with old feelings. And they can't be repressed. Well, perhaps they can be repressed for a while. In my experience, they can often be repressed into perhaps our 40s. But there's always comes a time where the feelings just push so hard on us to be felt that we really have to do something about it. That something can be an increase in the addictive processes, because all these things I've talked about, these personalities that develop, what's so strong there is that for a while, when we're into our addictive substance, it could be drinking, smoking, eating, sex, shopping. There's many things that we can do that take us out of the pain for a while. But the reason they become addictive, because it's not just physical, is because as when that comes to an end, when we've been shopping and bought lots of wonderful new things that gave us a high for a while, by the following day, that's gone. And we're going to need some more shopping. And it's the same with all substances or all activities that we get into that become addictive, is because they only take us out of the pain for a while. The pain doesn't go. It's just we've got our attention somewhere else for a while. So that's it's a very painful experience for us. And we're wanting, obviously, when we look at our trauma, our childhood trauma more clearly. We can see that because it came from childhood, we have to work with our childhood. But not just with childhood, we also work with our experiences today. And the healing processes that I use are, from the beginning, giving people the freedom to really express what they remember, express what it was like for them, feel their feelings. Quite an intensive release of feelings is so important to be heard, to be accepted, without judgment, without criticism, without interruption, to feel that all that's being held inside can be fully expressed and fully felt. When we've done that, we can actually start questioning. And this is a very good question. It's saying, hang on, what thoughts and ideas and beliefs and limitations have I got going on that came from my childhood? And then what if they only belong to my childhood? What if they're not true anymore? So the work I tend to do here is just really questioning, is this true? Was it true then? Was it reasonable what you learned to do then to help you get through? Yes, of course it was. Do you need it now? So that's a very deep and very very helpful process that we can go through. Then learning lots of practices, meditation, visualization, journaling, some work with the nervous system, particularly the vagus nerve, and practices that we can use if we have, many people have panic attacks. This is all from the childhood trauma, and times of anxiety. And people are left with lots of anxiety and stress and fear left over from their childhood times, but also that these have come out of the degree of the deep painful feelings that we'd hold on to. So it sort of rolls on and comes into more new feelings. And the guilt and the shame are really hard to deal with. So they need to be expressed, felt, questioned. And the other part of this that's so valuable is learning to forgive, learning to let go. Sometimes the forgiveness takes a long, long time, but the way I work with it is that the reason we forgive is for ourselves, because it hurts us if we carry grievances and we feel angry and upset towards people. It doesn't really do much to them. They might be dead even, or we might not see them. The one who is hurt is the person who's holding the grievances. So we begin to get a deeper understanding of actual forgiveness and begin to practice it where we can. And ways of letting go of the feelings that we carry today from the past and the thoughts and the self-talk. So we become aware of all these things and learn how to bit by bit let go and build a whole new way of seeing, that we realize we don't have to hold on to those old ways. We can actually begin to create new ways. So all of these things are really, really helpful for us. And one extra thing I just wanted to mention was depression. It's really valuable to realize that depression comes from not feeling all the other feelings. So you can think of the word depress. It's a huge effort to keep holding on to these old feelings, keeping them down. It gets harder and harder. And when we do that, the natural result is depression. So it's just a wonderful thing, actually, that we can begin to express, feel our feelings, question, forgive, let go, meditate, work on healing practices within ourselves, and gradually we discover who we really are, and that who we really are is actually beautiful and good, capable, and can have a happy and fulfilling life. So that's the work I love to do. And my new course is starting on Thursday the 7th of September. And I'd be very happy to hear from you if you want to ask more about it. And if you actually want to register for the course, there's details on my website. which is leahchooseslove.co.uk. If you want to write to me, leah.ichooselove@gmail.com. So there's lots of other things there, and I'd be really happy to hear from you. And you might want personal work. I do life counselling that helps people with their childhood trauma. So have a look at that too. Thank you for watching and listening. Bye bye.